Okay, broken rear leaf spring on an F-150. We're replacing this. And what tools did it take? That's always the first question. Look at all these tools. All the sockets, all the clamps, all the extensions, all the power tools, cutoff wheel, vice grips, hammers, pry bars. Did I need all that? This was a big waste of time. So watch this video and I'll show you what I mean. Even look at these wrenches right here. This is no joke, this snap-on, okay? This brings all the beans. This has all the juice. And that didn't pull the bolts off or the nuts off. Either did this air-powered ATD wrench. Very, very powerful stuff here. Chief impact hammer, not a joke. Also didn't do the job. What did the job? This tool right here. This is the tool you need. Now, it doesn't matter corded or cordless, doesn't matter the color, doesn't matter the brand, just needs to be powerful. But this, don't skimp on this. See that brand? Diablo. This is the blade to get. I'll talk about this in the video. I ended up cutting everything. Cutting that bolt off, cutting that bolt, and that was one nut that I was able to get off. None of these others I could get off at all. And I spent hours trying to do this. I pre-soaked these for three times over 5 days with penetrating oil. Didn't help a bit. All right, so watch this video. This is gonna save you a ton of time. Hey gang, welcome back to the shop. -7 outside, so we're trying to warm the shop up. But basically we got a 2008 F-150 here with a broken leaf spring. And there's the leaf that's busted off. And what's weird is this is the middle spring. So if you're looking at it from underneath, you don't really notice that. You'll notice the spring sticking off the side, but you don't notice that it's the middle spring that actually busted, okay? This is the lower spring here and the upper spring. And what happens is, how does this one end up underneath the lower spring? Well, this cleat or this clamp right here is normally up here, right? And so when this spring breaks, it rattles out to the side and then it slides down and the clamp slides down and stops there. So it makes a clunk, of course, when you hit a bump. It bounces up and down and does that. So it definitely needs to be replaced. You can see how wonky it is too, how bent it is. This is not a normal curvature of a leaf spring. So just for safety, you know, we've got a jack here on the frame. That's unsprung, the axle here, it's drooped down. I've got a jack underneath it just with a little bit of tension just to support it. So the spring is drooped out. Also got a major jack stand 12-ton back there on the frame back there. Okay, and then 3 tires on the ground. So, okay, and I ended up going to Rock Auto and settling on them and not on AutoZone and Napa and all the other websites, you know, O'Reilly. I couldn't find consistent dimensions on the springs or the U-bolts or anything. But I did on Rock Auto, so that's why I ended up going with Rock Auto. The spring was definitely cheaper. I did have to pay for shipping on Rock Auto, so I'll show you totals in just a minute here. But basically, you know, you have to look at dimensions. We're going to look at dimensions in just a minute here, but here's the prices. And so this might or might not come out in the camera, but the leaf spring shackle was $24. There's a leaf spring bolt, that's the cross bolt on the bottom there, that's $11. The spring itself was $145, and they're calling this leaf spring bolt right here, that dormant part, are the U-bolts right here, okay, with the nuts. It showed up in 3 days, literally, all the parts did, and the total was $282 with shipping. When you're ordering this, there's a lot of things you want to pay attention to so you don't end up with the wrong parts. So you got to measure things on your vehicle. One of the things you want to measure, oh, and before I forget, make sure that the springs come with these bushings. Some of the springs don't come with the end bushings. Okay, and then you're going to be stuck without the parts that you need. All right, so as far as the spring goes, you want to measure how many, you want to know how many springs are in the pack, first of all, how tall the spring pack is, and you can measure the spring pack right there on your existing vehicle. You also want to know the dimension between the center of the eye bolt and the center of the spring here. So I just basically drew, you know, kind of imaginary line right there between those 2 bolts. From the rear to the middle and then the front to the middle. Those are 2 different dimensions. You also want to know the spring width. Okay, so spring width is, this one's actually 3 inches. So here to here is 3 inches. Those are the things you got to know for the spring. As far as the U-bolts go, there's different size U-bolts. And so you want to know the dimensions here. This is actually 3.5 inches between here and here. And the length is important as well. Okay, so make sure you get the right length because there's a couple different lengths of U-bolts. So just measure the ones on your vehicle and then get the same ones. And Rock Auto had all those dimensions. They had the dimensions on this as well. The dimensions on this bolt as well. And this is a heavy duty bolt. You'll notice that if you take this apart, that the front spring bushing hole is bigger than the rear. Okay, so that's where that big bolt comes in. These are smaller bolts on the rear shackle here. And there's a smaller hole there. So just some things to pay attention to. Okay, so Ford in their infinite wisdom and assembly put the bolt in the wrong way. Of course, they assembled the springs, the suspension before they put the tank in, which is awesome for us because then you have to either cut the bolt or drop the tank. I'm not dropping the tank. I'm not planning on that. I'm going to try to cut the bolt out. So we're going to loosen the bolt here and punch it out that way as far as I can, or a little ways, clamp it here, use a sawzall or a cutoff wheel on the other end. That's the hope. All right, the other thing you want to do is before you do this project, when you're ordering parts, is go ahead and start soaking stuff in PB Blaster, or, you know, I use the Seafoam Penetrant. I sprayed it down 3 times over about 5 days. And so just soak them all really good. Make sure you do that, and hopefully things will go better for you. So I was able to get a 24 millimeter on this inside bolt. This is a 1 1/16 on the outside. This is probably supposed to be a 27 millimeter, but because of all the rust, I ended up using the SAE. Okay, that was the easy part. Okay guys, here's the blade I'm going to try. It's a Diablo carbide thick metal blade. So they show an I-beam there. I've cut some really thick steel with this before. I've used several of these over the past few years. This is a used one. I don't know if this is going to cut it or not. I'm going to try to save my new one in case that one doesn't do it. So got the vice grips here. I'm coming in from the rear. Just got to make sure this is a long blade, so make sure you're not cutting anything above or hitting the side of the tank. And I'm just going to jam it right up against there and push up. Okay, and what helped with this was just driving the bolt through as far as I could with just enough, you know, room there to get the vice grips on over the bolt there. So it maximized the bolt coming out far this way. Okay, and there's the head. That took less than 2 minutes, so that blade worked really well. Okay, so I can't get this back through here. I can't get the nut on because these aren't threads out here. The threads are inside here. And so I don't really have anything way to pound it or anything to pry on from the other side. I've tried wiggling with vice grips. It does move, but we're just going to leave it for right now and loosen up this other stuff back here and probably get the axle off too. And then that should be able to allow us to just pull this out with a pair of vice grips once we can manipulate this leaf spring a little bit. Now we're coming around the back here. And you know, don't bother, if you're replacing the shackle, don't bother pulling that one apart, right? So we got an 18 millimeter in this one, 21 millimeter on the inside. Okay, so this needs a deep well because the bolt is so long it sticks out there, then you can't get your impact on it. So I'm going to try this. This is a wrench extender that I bought, and Capri is the brand, so decent quality. Let's just see if it makes a difference here. Got it loose with the rubber mallet. I get this nut off for the past hour, and I'm not joking. I can't get a socket on here. A deep well doesn't fit because you can't get your tool here. A shallow well doesn't go over the shaft. I cut the shaft off. I can get the shallow well on, but I can't get enough torque even with the breaker bar to loosen this. It's just stuck now. It backed off pretty easily, and then it got tighter and tighter. I don't know. This bolt is so corroded in here, it's just totally stuck. It's not going anywhere. So they did provide this little access hole. You can see I dropped the spare tire right here. They did provide an access hole, so I'll give Ford a little bit of credit for this. We're going to slide in our impact here and see if we can't get this off. It's 21 millimeter again. Got the snap-on impact. Let's see what happens. Well, that's not doing it. All right, this is all the ugga-duggas I got. Okay, this is the biggest wrench I got, ATD Air. I bought this 25 years ago or so, and I only use it to pull off really hard stuff. I don't know if this is more powerful than the snap-on. We're gonna find out. Ta-da! Don't ever take the guard off, by the way. It just wouldn't fit with the guard off. Obviously it's going back on now, but now maybe we can use the air hammer and get this thing out. Okay, just bought this, got the extended drift. And it doesn't freaking reach. That's awesome. I got this piece of 1-inch stock. You guys that got other ideas, please comment in below, but I'm gonna basically hook the air hammer up to this and okay, so finally, I can't pound it out. So I went to a thin metal cutting blade by Diablo. It took about 30 seconds to cut through it. And this is a thinner blade. It's the 6-inch medium metal is what it's called. And it was just enough to get the sawzall right in here, like this. Like that. Cut through the rubber, and then that last piece fell out. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do that on this other side, right here. But I'm going to lay the sawzall blade right there on top of the rubber bushing and try to cut along the metal, along the side, like that. Okay, so in hindsight, you know, I spent an hour and a half trying to get the bolt, maybe 2 hours trying to get the bolt out, not joking. Getting all the tools, trying the ever hammers, trying pounding it, trying all the stupid stuff I've been trying. And that's after soaking it for 3 times over 5 days. So that didn't help. And so going to cut it off, I wish I'd just done that to begin with. You know, that left side, that inboard side took 30 seconds of cutting. The outboard side took about 2 minutes of cutting. So I wish I'd done that to begin with. That would have saved me a ton of time. And if you're doing your own fabricating and stuff like this, you know, I'm going to put a link in the description for these. I don't, Diablo, of course, doesn't pay me anything for these, but these things, they just rock. 21 millimeter. Now, did you see what happened there? I didn't listen to Gearhead Brian, right? And so he does these 30-second videos. If you don't subscribe to him, Gearhead Brian, check him out. He's always like, clean your threads, clean your threads, clean your threads before you take a nut off. You saw what just happened. That one didn't come off. So we're going to do that now with a little wire wheel. Oh, it's still bound up. We're going to have to cut these off too. Holy cow. But hey, we can. We've got the beast blade. Let's do it. Okay, guess we don't need to cut that one. Of course. Let's get this spring out of here. Okay, now that we can wiggle the spring back and forth, that just pulls out by hand. Sweet. Yep. Good deal. Okay, and in Ford's defense, you know, I kind of get it that they probably assembled it like that. So this long bolt here, if the nut fell off and it did try to back out, it would hit the tank and probably keep it from the suspension from failing. So, you know, putting this together with this lock nut, we're definitely torquing it down, and also putting a bunch of red Loctite on it so it doesn't ever come out. Now, this part of the shackle goes to the back, all right? So this is actually spring bushings. We can get rid of those. We don't need those. Okay, now we're just going to drop the axle and get this down in place here. Kind of slow. Okay, one other thing, guys. Obviously, this just bolts back together. The installation's the reverse of removal, not difficult. A couple times I had to put like a big crescent wrench on here and twist the spring just a little bit to get the bolts to go through. Now, don't put this bolt in the wrong way. If you put this bolt in the other way from this direction, this threaded part will hit the frame right there. So make sure to put the bolt through here out this side. And what I had to do was just kind of push the frame up, or push the spring up a little bit to where I could insert the bolt from above the frame over here. Okay, and last thing, don't forget to retorque your bolts and recheck your bolts. You know, if you're going to do this yourself, make sure you're retorquing your bolts. So these U-bolts, I torqued them to 30 foot-pounds. I got it back on the ground now. Now we got to get under it and incrementally torque it up to spec. Also, don't forget when you're doing this to make sure that you put all your bolts in. Don't tighten anything. Your U-bolts, these, get them all lined up, get all the bolts in before you tighten anything down. So I was worried this would be, you know, a new spring would make the truck sit like this because it's a new spring, but I measured, you know, from the top of the tire to the inside of the fender right here, and it's 9 3/8 on the original side, which is 2008 spring. This new spring is only 9 1/2, so it's almost no difference at all. Perfect fit. I'm super happy with these parts. If we have to do the other side, I'm definitely ordering this set again.